Evening, everybody. It's Scott. I'm down here at the gallery. I've got Zoe Ris here with me. Hi, Zoe.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me. So tonight we're going to do something a little different. Tonight we are going to do a little chat with Zoe, and she's going to do a little demonstration on her acrylic paint pouring. If you guys have been in the last couple weeks, you may have seen this face behind the counter and out doing things and helping you. Zoe is our intern for the summer, and she came in a little bit over the holidays and interned with us, and so she's back for the summer. Thank goodness. We need her help, that's for sure. But she's also our newest artisan. So she's in here. She does some amazing acrylic pours. So we've got some of her work in here, and we wanted to have a little chat with her, showcase a little bit of her work, and then let her actually do what she does live here on the channel. So Zoe, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To get started, tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing now. You're currently a student and all that kind of stuff. So go for it.
Yes, I am a senior art student at James Madison University, and this December I will be graduating with a Bachelor of Fine Arts and Art History minor.
Fantastic.
And I've always had a passion for art ever since I was little. I actually started out with just drawing like all the time. And then what really sparked my artistic passion to the fullest was back in 7th grade when I really got into cartoons and anime, and I just started drawing characters and other illustrations all the time. And I got this obsession with it. And then when it came time to decide what I wanted to do after high school, I figured, well, art is the one thing that I love to do, and I think it's something that I could try to make a career out of. So that's where I am today.
Great. No, fantastic. What got you into the acrylic pours? Why the acrylic pours? I know you do a lot of different things. But the acrylic pours kind of seem to be your niche right now, right?
Yeah. So I did not know what acrylic pouring was for a long time. I actually still am sort of an amateur and somewhat of a beginner into paint pours. And how I actually discovered it was from one of my old high school art teachers. And a few people attend Skyline High School right now and have Miss Redmond. She's the one.
Shout out.
Yes. Shout out to Miss Redmond. Thank you so much for teaching me this technique.
Out.
Oh, and if you guys are in her class right now, ask her about it because it is so much fun.
If anybody's friends with her, tag her in this so she can see the shout out.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, such a wonderful teacher and such a wonderful person. But yes, I was actually a practicum student in her class where I had to observe what it's like to be a teacher, because in community college, I was sort of playing around with the idea of maybe I should see if teaching might be an outlet for me. And so while I was in her class, she invited me to do an art activity that she sometimes does with some of her senior students, and one of them was paint pouring. And I was like, okay, what is this? I've never heard of this. And she showed me some of the techniques, and I was like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, it's actually, you can see the paint moving. It does all these cool cell shapes. And then by the time I started James Madison University, I was in my first painting course, and we were starting to work on really large canvases, because in college, you don't work small anymore. They want you to start getting bigger.
Right.
And I actually, in this class, I had to make my own canvas. And I think it was a 24 by 30 inch canvas, and I had no idea what I was going to do with it. I didn't want to do some hyper realistic portrait that would take hours. I wanted to do something where I would respond to music, because that's where a lot of my inspiration behind the paint pours comes from. And so I thought, maybe I could try a paint pour and see how the professor reacts to it.
Sure. Keep talking. I'm going to pull up the website to showcase one of your pieces here. This one right here is one of my favorites. This thing, you guys just don't realize, this thing is, what is it, 4 foot by 5 foot?
Yes, that is the biggest canvas that I've ever worked on.
It is so impressive to view. I mean, it really is. The colors are so vibrant. What's the name of this again, and how did you get this?
This one is called,
because you told me, but I want them to know.
Yes, so this one is called Cirthea's Gate, and the word Cirthea is a made-up word. It is actually the name of an imaginary world my sister and I came up with when we were kids. And when I started this independent study course where I took a painting course and decided to come up with my own thesis or theme and do a series of paintings on this theme. And this theme, of course, was imaginary worlds and landscapes. I wanted to do something that really connected with my childhood and my love of imagination and fantasy, and try to capture that in paint pouring. And this was, of course, the result.
Fantastic. No, it's really impressive when you guys come in. It's right near the door. The colors just pop out at you. Obviously, the webpage here doesn't do it justice. She's got 5 different pieces in here. Here's 3 of them below here. Definitely come in and check it out. The work is absolutely amazing. You know.
One of those actually is the very first one that I did.
Which one's that?
The middle one.
The middle one. Let's pull that one up right here. So we're pulling it up. Okay, there we go.
Yes, this one right here is actually the very first paint pour that I did in my introduction to painting course at James
Excellent.
Madison University. I had no idea how the professor would react. I was first worried he was going to hate it because this is a very sort of new, trending, contemporary painting style. And to my surprise and joy, he absolutely loved it and said, "You should definitely make this your focus in my class." And
Great.
I was like,
That's
yes.
awesome. That's awesome. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, again, you know, you guys definitely check out her work on our website. The website's right above us, right here. She is going to be with us all summer. And you're also going to do an acrylic pouring class in here, right? We're going to do that in August. It's already registering on the website. So if you guys watch Zoe do her work here in a few minutes, but she's actually going to be bringing some people in. Obviously, we're going to be dealing with all the social distance and masks and whatever whatever in August we have to deal with, we'll be dealing with it. But we'll be doing it in here. She's going to have some people in here. But they're going to be doing their own. What size canvas was it that they were doing?
So I'm going to provide 8 by 8 inch canvases.
Great.
And I'm also going to provide the paint. I'm also going to provide the pouring medium. And I'm going to have like trash bags or plastic mats out so that if there's some messes, that's okay.
And I know a lot of people have done paint pours where they basically flip the cup, right?
Yes.
But you're going to be doing 2 types of paint pours and they can choose which one they want to do, right?
Yes. So I personally, as you're going to see, I personally don't like using the flip cup method, which if some of you who are familiar with paint pouring, you'll see artists dump a whole ton of paint colors into one cup and then flip it. It's not that I hate that technique. I think it works for some people who have a really good understanding of getting it to work for them. But every single time I've tried it, the colors just turn into mud, or only 2 colors show up and the others completely fade out.
So what are the 2 techniques they're going to be able to choose from?
So the techniques that I personally like to do, what I'm going to be showing you guys in the workshop, and also I'm going to show you 2 of them today, is the swipe technique and the puddle pour.
Awesome. Well, with that, why don't we get started? You ready to get started?
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
So give us about 10 seconds for us to switch everything over and watch Zoe do her thing. Go ahead, Zoe.
Ready, guys.
Feel free. I'm going to switch us over to the different cameras, move some lights and the microphone, and we're going to be ready to rock and roll. So what size are you working on right now? What's this one?
Okay, I think this one is about a 9 by 12 canvas. This is actually a reused canvas that I am going to be using today.
And if everybody, let me break in for a second. If anybody has any questions for Zoe while we're doing this, feel free to comment. I'm going to be checking comments and then I'll post them up and Zoe can answer your questions as we're going along. So feel free to ask. Go ahead, Zoe.
Okay, guys, so the first technique that I mentioned that I'm going to show you is the swipe technique. And the reason why I really love this technique, and is actually one of the main techniques that I use in all of my paint pours, is because it is much easier to control what the paint is going to do. You're less likely to end up getting paint that just turns everything into mud, and then you end up wasting a ton of materials and ruining the canvas. And also, for some reason, the swipe technique tends to really get a lot of cell action to come out automatically. I've experimented with other techniques, like sometimes the flip cup technique, where the cells didn't always come out as nicely because it just didn't work out for me. So first thing I'm going to show you guys is, of course, how to mix the paint. So step one, mixing the paint is very, very important, because if you don't mix your paint the right way and you don't get certain measurements the right way, it's going to mess up the whole thing. And also, choosing your colors is also very, very important. I would say choosing your colors is the first and most important thing, and then mixing them well is the second most important thing, because you want to have colors that have really good contrasts. So that's why I tend to always use black and white in almost all of my paintings, because black and white is going to really make the colors stand out and pop more. I know some paint pour artists have had some success with using colors that are all the same, like using all yellows with just red and no black and white. I personally don't like to do that because I feel like the colors tend to blend in with each other. So this is going back to complementary colors, which are colors that are opposites. If they're opposites, you get the highest contrast. If you use colors that are all on the same color spectrum, like I was saying before, you're just using yellow and red, you're on the same color spectrum, which is the warm color spectrum, and they're kind of going to blend into each other, and you're not going to get that really sharp, crisp contrast. Okay, so I am thinking that I'm going to use, for my colors here, my black and white for some more strong contrast, but I think for my colors, I'm going to use this aqua color here. It's called Ocean Breeze. And by the way, I use the small craft barrel paints. You do not need super expensive paint to do your paint pours. These craft barrel paints only cost a couple of cents at Walmart, and they work really well. Let's see, I'm also going to use gold here. Let's see, so I'm going to use this orange color. I'm going to use it in the brain. Some yellow here. And maybe instead of gold, let's bring in a darker metallic color like copper. Okay, so here, with the cups out of the way so you guys can see what colors I'm using. So here's a good example of getting colors that are opposites. They're not going to blend into each other. We got a cool color over here, which is the aqua, a warm color, which is the yellow, and then we have a darker metallic color, which is copper. Okay. If you guys have any questions or need me to repeat something, feel free to ask. So I'm going to mix my first color here, and I'm going to mix my base, which is white. Okay. Now what you want is you want the paint to only fill the slim rim at the bottom of your cup. You don't want the paint to fill all the way up, because if you have too much paint, it's going to get blobby and goopy, and the paint's not going to move around. Okay, let's see. You guys see that? That's about what you guys want to have at the bottom. Okay, so here's my pouring medium, and this is what you guys need to make the paint move. And I use Sargent Art pouring medium, and what I really like about this pouring medium is that it's very, very affordable. It's about $27, close to $32. You can get it on Amazon or eBay for 1 gallon at that price.
Zoe, can you hold that up to that camera right there? Just the label up a little bit.
Yeah.
There you go. It's perfect. Perfect.
Sargent Art pouring medium.
Perfect.
Amazon or eBay. The other great thing about this that I actually learned on my last semester was you actually don't need to have silicone mixed in with it. Usually you see most paint pouring artists, they mix silicone drops or silicone spray in with the paint to make the cells work. But what I found out is that somehow this company that makes this type of pouring medium, they have something in it which makes the cells happen on their own already. So you don't necessarily have to use any silicone with this. You can if you want to, if you think it might get some bigger cell action, but you really don't have to with this type of pouring medium, so that's really nice. Okay, so I'm going to fill the pouring medium to around, I think that's about a quarter or so right here. Right, Liz, you don't need too much. Maybe that. So right about there.
Yeah, remember the camera's above. So what are you, about a third full now?
Yeah, I think it's about a third full.
Okay.
Yeah, right
About a
about there.
third full.
Okay.
So
Next step.
before you do that, Zoe, I got one question. So I see your canvas is already painted.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I forgot to mention about that. Okay, yes, so I like to paint my canvases with either black or another dark color, which my big canvas will be, which is a really dark blue. You don't have to paint your canvases. You can leave them white if that's what you want. But the reason why I like to paint my canvases with a really dark color like black is because that way, after I'm done with the pour and the way the colors move around, you get more contrast, and you also don't have to go back in and paint in little naked spots that sometimes the cells will do. So like you'll see when I do the pour, but sometimes the cells create little naked spots where you'll see the canvas at the bottom. So that's why I like to paint them.
Awesome.
Okay.
That was my own question because I was wondering why you did it. I thought it was great. I've never seen it.
But yeah, I actually started doing that when I got in college, of course, because I wanted the composition, of course, to look nicer as my courses started getting more advanced. So yeah, just having a nice dark background just creates more contrast. It creates less work if you have to go back in and do touch-ups. Okay, so right now I'm going to start mixing the paint and the pouring medium together. Now it's going to be a little hard to tell maybe with the white, just because the pouring medium and the white kind of match. But what you want to do is mix it until you can see the paint color pretty much fill up the pouring medium. So like the pouring medium becomes the color of the paint. That. Mix back here. Keep mixing better. Yeah, you'll notice if you come to my paint pouring class, mixing tends to take the longest, and then the actual paint pouring itself is the quickest process. Because mixing is the most important part. It's kind of like art chemistry in a way. You see that? So it's starting to turn more white. Might look the same, it's turning a little bit more white. Keep mixing that. Mixing that. Okay, so that is our white. Put that to the side right now. Okay, the next color I'm going to do, which will be very obvious to see when mixing the pouring medium, is black. Same thing again. We're going to have the paint cover the rim of the cup. Not too much. So about like that, so you guys can see. Pouring medium. Have about the same amount as the white. There, it's about the same. It's a little bit off sometimes, it's okay. You don't want to have like way too much or way too little. Okay, see how the paint pouring medium is automatically starting to turn black? That's what you want. Now what you're going to see here is that it looks gray. And no matter how much you keep mixing, it's going to stay a grayish color. And that's just because of the pouring medium. That's what it does when it's wet. When it dries, it's going to be pitch black like the canvas here. So whenever you do this, don't be fooled of thinking that the black is going to stay gray when it dries. It's not. You see that? That's pretty much what you want. It's going to be a darkish gray, but that's okay. That's what you want. Okay, so now we have our contrast, our base colors, black and white are done. Next up, we got our colors. Okay, so next color I'm going to mix is this nice aqua. I think it's called Ocean Breeze. Same thing again. Do this. Let's see, let me measure that.
So right now you're just getting all your colors ready.
Yeah,
right?
I'm getting all my colors ready. So yeah, this, like I said, this process sometimes takes a little bit. Shouldn't take too long. Okay, I'm just mixing it again. See how it's starting to turn into that color? There we go. Turning into that turquoise. We got that. Set that aside. This color we're going to do dark yellow. There we go. Just like that. Just like that. Okay. Okay. First spoon. That mixed up. Hang in there. We got one more color. That'll be the copper.
Getting ready to pour, guys. Getting
We're
ready to
getting close. We're
pour.
getting ready. Yeah. Turning yellow. Yeah. And the yellow, I don't know about you guys, the yellow looks kind of a little bit more milky and lighter. That's okay because it's going to be slightly darker when it dries. So again, don't just go by what the colors look like now when the pouring medium is wet. So it's going to be darker when it dries. Okay, yellow's done. Last color, copper. Now I don't require that you always have to use a metallic color when choosing what colors you're going to use. Well, it's got some goop in it. Shake that up. Yeah, if it does that where it does some of the binding goop comes out like that, just shake the paint bottle so that the binder mixes in with the paint. Yeah, because that's what that clear goopy stuff is. It's binder. It keeps the paint together. Okay. Mix that in. There we go. Dark copper color. But yeah, you don't have to use a metallic color if you don't want to. I personally like using them because I like having some of that shine there, kind of that whimsical feel to it. Shininess. There we go. Right in. Okay. Now, when I did that 4 foot by 5 foot canvas, I had to fill the whole cup, and that used up 2 gallons of pouring medium. So this is small in comparison to doing that one of that scale. Okay, see how, and you see how the copper kind of looks light. You don't always see the dark metallic shine in it. Again, that's because that's what the pouring medium does when it's not dry. When it dries, it's going to look exactly how it looks like on the cover here. Okay. So about like that is what you want for your metallic colors. Okay. We have our colors mixed together. Now let's get ready to pour. Now, some people might say that the order in which you pour your colors is not that important, but I think it's actually very important in how you lay down your colors, because the way you lay them down determines how they're going to blend, how the cells are going to form, and it also will prevent a lot of issues with colors turning into mud, which is what we don't want. So what I usually like to do is I start with black first. Because what the black will do is it will help with a lacing effect, which you'll see when the cells will start to form. And then you go in for your second color, you go with a lighter color. So I'm going to go in with white, but you can go in with the yellow or the blue, any color that's lighter than black. Now, as you notice, when I'm laying down my colors, I want it to be fairly even. I don't want one pour to be thicker than the other one. Because if your paint is too thick, it'll form cracks, which I sometimes have issues with. So yeah, the thicker you pour the paint, the more cracks are going to show up, because what happens is when it dries, the air inside the paint can't escape, so that while it's drying, it's going to form cracks for the air to escape out. I'll have sort of thin and the same amount of paint poured down. That one's a little bit thinner. I think I'll just leave it like that. It's not, I don't think it's too thick, and it's not too thin either. Okay, so now I'm going to go with some copper. A little bit of yellow again. I tend to use thinner strands towards the bottom, because I don't always like to go all the way to the bottom, because when you drag it, all the colors are just going to drag to the bottom anyways. Okay, so some black at the bottom. Here's something you're going to see me do, and I sometimes do this a lot in my paintings. I'll sometimes take the metallic color and drizzle in so that it comes in almost throughout. I don't like to use really big blobs of metallic, because I don't want the metallic to become too overpowering. Okay, so that's basically the layout you're going to have when you do the swipe. You're going to just pour them horizontally and have separate layers. Now the next thing, of course, is the swiping method. Now most people tend to use paper towels, but for the sake of conservation, I have just a regular little palette knife over here. I'm just going to drag down, and you don't want to drag down too fast, because if you drag down too fast, it's going to mess up the painting. It's not going to really work. So you want to be slow and gentle, and we're not going to press down hard like that. You don't want to press down like that. You're going to press down nice and gently, like this. I'll show you right now. I'm going to start at the top. I'm not pressing down really hard. I'm pressing down really gently and slowly. Now always wipe off your palette knife when you go in again, because you don't want blobs of paint that stick onto it to go into your next swipe. Unless, of course, if you experiment, that's what you want, but usually what happens when you do that is it's going to make mud. I'm actually going to go with a smaller palette knife right here. Starting right here. You don't always have to start from the top, but I usually, for my first swipe, will start from the very top, and then on the second or third.
So Zoe, when you're talking about cells, you're talking about those bubbles right there, right?
Yeah, so the cells right here, as you can see, are the bubbles. And you see why the swipe technique is much easier and very effective, because you see how I instantly swipe, the cells immediately pop out like that. See this one right there. Now I missed a spot here when I did the swipe, but I sometimes like that because it has a little geode form right there. So I'm gonna leave it like that because I kind of like that. Okay. Swipe again over here. Watch the cells form again. Here. Right there. Okay, here's a good example of what I talked about with bald spots. See that there's a little naked spots right here, and then that one little cell there, and a little bit over there. Those are naked spots. Now, if the canvas was white, those naked spots would kind of take away from the quality of the paint. It wouldn't make it look as crisp or, I guess, complete. And before I started painting the background of the canvases, I would have to go back in with little blobs to fill them up, or if the blobs didn't work, I would have to paint them in by hand. But that is why I like to paint my canvas a darker color, because when it's dry, if those naked spots are still kind of there, or new naked spots show up that I don't see right now, it's not going to take away from the quality of the painting. It's actually going to work really well with the composition. Okay, now we see all this black up here at the very top, and that's okay. Because what you can do, which I'm going to show you as my mini palette knife over here, is I can actually go in the opposite side here and drag back. Again, not pressing down hard, slowly, very gently. See that? Now, one thing I'm going to say right now is you can see why I started with black at the top, because you see how it's really outlining the shapes of those cells, and it kind of looks like lace interwoven, like almost like a doily. That's why I start with black at the top, because if you were to start with a bright color, like say this turquoise here, or like this yellow, and then just did some random order, you won't always get that really nice, crisp, bold lines that outline the cells that give it that really, really nice contrast. Sometimes you can actually start with just white, and you can get some bold outlines with the white color, but if you're going to do that, you're going to want to have darker colors underneath. Yeah, so again, contrast is the key to getting a really, really nice, high quality pour. At least for me, that's what I like to do. I want to have as much contrast an interest with cell action going on here. Swipe up there. And also what's cool about laying the black down first is that when you drag it back, it has all the color underneath it, kind of like those scratch art pads where once you scratch it, you start seeing the color underneath. Kind of the same concept here. Colors underneath, you drag it back, it comes out. Like, look at that. That turquoise and white underneath. Now you notice it's moving, and that's normal. It's going to do that because the paint is still very fluid, so it is going to move around and it is going to come off on the side a little bit. And that's actually a good thing that it does that, because I think I used a little bit of too much paint in some areas, and you don't want huge blobs of paint staying dry on the canvas, because again, it's going to form a lot of cracks, which is kind of going to ruin your painting if it forms really big cracks like that. Let's go back up here. Too much blood on that surface.
Now this, when it dries, is going to look entirely different, right?
Oh yeah, when it dries, the black, of course, is going to be pitch black. It's going to be much darker. The blue is probably going to look a little bit darker, although not too different. But the yellow and the copper are going to be much darker. They're not going to be as pastel-y light like this. Now, if you want to tilt a spike pour, you don't have to, but you feel like you want the paint to move back a little bit, a different direction. You just tilt it a little bit like that. If there's too much paint, say towards the middle, you can move it down very slowly. Make that paint move towards the bottom edge. Stuck with it. I don't want to move it way too much because I really like what's going on here. That's the thing. With paint pouring, you can actually move the paint way too much and lose a lot of the cool effects that it's doing on its own. So you just kind of have to decide for yourself how much you want to tilt the canvas, how much you want to spread the cells, and then know when to stop and just leave it be and let it do its thing. Another thing when it dries, I should have mentioned this earlier, but another thing when it dries is while it's slowly drying overnight, some new cells might form where we can't see them right now, but they might form later on. So you might get some new surprise cells when it's dry the next day, or it just may stay the same. Yeah, that is a swipe technique. I'm going to leave it alone because I don't want to mess it. There you go, that's their swipe technique. That's really interesting. I like what it's doing right here. There we go. I've got quite a bit of leftover paint, but that's okay because I'm going to use this on my bigger canvas. Okay. That is why I like to use that technique for all my paintings. It's very easy. You got a lot more control of what the painting's going to do. You got a lot more control of the color they're going to come out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. That's beautiful. All right, so you're gonna do a bigger canvas right now, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna get out a 24 by 36 that I've been mentioning on social media. On that one, we're gonna do something a little bit different. I'm actually gonna show you guys some crazy things that I tend to do when I work on larger canvases, because the mindset and the way you approach a paint pour on a really large canvas kind of changes.
Okay, so while we get set up, if you guys have any questions, definitely post them in the comments. I'll be taking a look at them. She's gonna get her other canvas up here, and I'm gonna back the camera out a little bit because it's a larger canvas, but feel free to ask any questions.
All right, take your last look at this guy. I'll of course be taking photographs of this when it's fully dry the next day.
Yeah, we can't wait to see what it looks like when it's dry.
Oh yeah. There you go. Okay. I'm about to put my big canvas over it.
Perfect.
There you go. Now I think the reason why you have to have cuffs sort of speaks for itself, but just to let you guys know, for if you're a beginner into this, you always want to have your canvas propped up, because as you noticed when I did that smaller canvas, the paint really droops everywhere, and you want it to have enough height for the paint to fall off and not glue the canvas to the surface. Okay, so this, again, is 24 by 36 inches. This was the leftover canvas that I had from class at James Madison. And I decided to paint the background blue because I wanted to try a different background other than always using black as my last resort. I wanted to try a darker color that might have a different effect as far as composition and how it interacts with the colors I'm going to use for the actual pour. So using leftover paint I have here, let's start a large pour, I think. I have enough color. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I used 5 colors on the mini pour. Now I'm deciding, do I want to have another color? Let's see. I'm debating whether or not I want to have another metallic color instead of just one, since the canvas is so large.
Go with it, Zoe. Go with it.
Yeah, I'm really tempted because I'm thinking I've got this really nice dark metallic turquoise that I think would really complement the lighter turquoise. Not two of them side by side on the canvas, but actually this maybe side by side with the yellow. Let's see what that'll do. So I'm just gonna mix that up real quick. So this will be good. There's another review of mixing again. Yep, there you go again. Again. Ooh, this is cool. I'm gonna make a confession. I don't think I've used this type of metallic turquoise before.
No better time than
Really
now.
pretty,
Live. No better time than live.
It's really cool. Looks like it's something from the video.
Again, if you guys have any questions, just add them to the comments. That's my purpose right now. I'm watching the comments. You don't want me doing that down there. Stuff will be very, very messy.
Now, I don't think I'm going to fill this one all the way up to 3/4 to a third. No, never mind. I'm going to. I like this color. I think it'll be just fine. Get a little spoon. Mix that up. show you guys.
It's hard for you guys to see on the camera, but it's got this metallic sheen to it, this color. It's very cool.
Now, of course, again, it's coming out a bit lighter. It looks almost as light as the light turquoise, but again, look at the difference. But actually, yeah, that's not an example. I should get the extra, yeah. Look at the difference here. Now, this is darker, this is lighter. This is this. When it dries, it's going to be exactly what it looks like on the cover. So don't let it being really light right now fool you right now. Okay. Okay, I got that. And before I start pouring, I'm going to show you what I have right now as far as colors. So we got this new metallic turquoise, this yellow, black, white, and this dark copper. Now, unlike what I showed you with the mini canvas, I'm going to show you guys what I tend to do. What I'm doing right now is I'm breaking some of my rules a little bit, where I'm not getting too picky about my measurements because it's a large canvas.
I got a question for you, Zoe.
Yeah.
So the question is, why does the drying process change the painting so much?
Why does the drying process?
Yep.
I don't really know the chemical explanation as to why the pouring medium makes the colors lighter, and when it dries, the colors end up being what they are on the tube. But it's just one of those things where that's just what happens. It's kind of like, I kind of like to compare it to glazes for ceramics, where a color will look really, really light. Like, for instance, when you use blue, it'll look really, really pale blue, but when you fire it, it's going to be really, really dark. I don't know why exactly it does that, but that's just what it does.
So it could be the fact that when it's in its liquid form like that, it's opaque, but then when it dries, it's translucent.
Exactly.
Probably.
Yeah.
And so it allows the true paint color to come back through.
Exactly.
Great question. Thanks for the question.
But yeah, again, you have to always remind yourself that, oh no, it looks really light, it's going to dry that way. No, it's not. Just remember what the paint tube color looks like, and imagine what it's going to look like when it dries that way. And I'm going to bring, since you asked that question, this is my waste canvas here. This is not really used for art or anything. It's just a dumping canvas for leftover paint, because I don't like to, and that's a good thing to talk about actually before I pour. I really, really strongly emphasize not to pour this stuff down the sink, because I'm pretty sure it's got some environmental things that wouldn't be really good for the water. So when you dispose of this stuff, just dump it on an old canvas that you don't use anymore, or that you're thinking of throwing away, and just dump it on the canvas so it dries and turns into a skin, and then you can just throw away separately in a garbage bag. Because it really, this kind of stuff, I really don't think it's good to dump it down the sink. And if you're wondering how I dispose of this stuff in school, we actually have separate sinks that don't directly connect to the drain system or whatever. They actually go into separate big crates at the bottom of these paint sinks. That way we don't pollute the water. Okay, I'm gonna break some rules now and mess around. Now, while I'm breaking rules, it's actually very good if you're a beginner to follow the rules first so that you can know how to break them. Learn the rules so that you can break them well. Okay, I'm just taking the spoons out here real quick, guys, because I'm going to dump the cup further down. I don't want the spoon falling out onto the canvas. Okay. Now, one rule, I guess, even though I said I'm breaking rules, there is one rule I am still going to apply, and that is how I order my colors. I want to start with the black again. Black, interlace, white a little bit. Okay, now you see how I'm trying not to make the white overpower the black? I want the black to still do that lacing effect. Oh, there it is. Go with my turquoise. Yellow again. Now I'm going to go with this really cool metallic turquoise. Now you notice I'm not trying to do those really perfectly straight horizontal lines that I did on the other one, because on my really large canvases, I don't necessarily like to make the paint cover the whole thing. It may cover only a part of it, like maybe just this section, or it'll maybe just cover down to here, and maybe these spots will be left as negative space. And I like that because part of what my thesis was in actually all my painting courses, my professor really wanted me to make this style of painting my main focus, is that by having the paint pour not cover the whole canvas, it kind of looks like this moving creature, or like this moving wave that's coming across into like this dark background. And that's sort of the aesthetic that I want. And it looks really cool when it's dry. If you look at my turquoise one that I actually have here in the gallery, it's a square 36 by 36 inches. I didn't cover the whole thing with the pour. I only covered one half of it, and then the other half is negative space. So that in the end, it looks like this wave that looks like it's still moving and coming in. Okay. Oop, I got copper. I want to use it. I'm gonna go back and use it. Here. Up top. Move something here. Got a little speck of paint. That's okay. Just use my finger. Go away like that. If you got specks of paint in spots where you don't want it to be, just wipe it off with your finger right away. And if it leaves a bit of a stain, it's okay. We'll go back in, paint that by hand. Okay, let's see what happens with this right here. Starting right within here. I'm not starting all the way right here. I want to start with the paint blob is centered and go down from there. Okay. Again, I'm not pressing down really hard. I'm pressing down very lightly and very gently. Not too fast. Start right there. Let's see. I'm gonna start right here. Start here. Now, a lot of my decision making right now with this canvas is very instinctual, and that comes from continual practice and a lot of experimentation on smaller canvases like I showed you previously, where I learned the rules, I got a feel for how the paint is going to react. And by that time I familiarized myself with that process and experimented enough, I can play around more and sometimes work through instinct. You know, I'm just finding spots that I think might do something interesting or do something a bit unexpected. Drag that up. Stand up. Come around a little bit over here. This is why I have trash bags and extra plastic everywhere, because this is very messy art. Messy art. There. Do that. Sorry, move back here, guys. Now, if you're wondering, it's a little blob right now, it's just gonna stay like that. Well, that's okay if it doesn't move all the way you want it to, because you can, since the canvas is big enough, and I didn't pour as thick, you can go back in and with more paint in certain areas you want to, and start filling up the rest of the areas you want filled up, instead of relying on only doing one pour and only have that one pour fill up the whole canvas. It's completely okay to go back in and dump more paint. It doesn't all have to be in one go. Like, here, let me show you. This is a lot of turquoise in here, and I wasn't expecting that. And I want another color to show up in it. Let's see. Let's go with a darker color, see if it creates more contrast. You need black. And it's okay if you run out of paint and you need to mix more, it's fine. It dries very slowly. So when you go back in, you're still going to be able to move them around.
Speaking of drying slowly, how long is it going to take for this thing to dry?
It'll take overnight. So you'll want at least a day, or depending if there's more paint on the canvas, it'll maybe take 2 days. But this should take just one night to dry. Okay, let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the copper down here. Making a puddle. This is another technique that's fun to work with and is not that difficult, and you still have some of that control, is the puddles. See how I made the black, copper, white. And then just take my palette knife.
And if you guys watch and if you have any questions, just ask. If you want to see what these look like when they're all dry, follow us on Facebook or Instagram. It's Turnmeyer Galleries, and we'll be posting pictures of these when they dry.
There we go. Okay, so that black is creating more contrast. A little bit more. If you're wondering how many experiments I had to do to finally feel comfortable with messing around so relaxed like this, I messed up quite a few mini canvases like the one underneath it with a lot of really bad paint pours to finally feel comfortable with knowing what the paint's going to do, knowing exactly how much to pour, exactly how to order the colors. That's how you learn as an artist. You have to make mistakes. Mistakes is how you learn.
So I'm going to take a second and I'm going to zoom in so they can see these cells a little better. You can see all of those little cells in there happening. It's kind of hard to get from the aerial view like that, but there's all kinds of cells popping up.
I'm starting to think that this should, when it's dry, this is a canvas that should be hung horizontally. I like how it goes in this direction.
Yeah, it might even be in here for sale.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna show you guys how I like to go back in with more paint on certain areas, like down here. I want to go back in, and I want to go back in with some more black, but I gotta mix some more black first. And I'm gonna need some white. I have enough white. I need more black. I use it black a lot. Yeah, I really, really like how the dark blue background is interacting with the colors that I'm using. Yeah, you see, I'm still using the same cup to mix more black, and that's okay. You don't have to rinse out the cup and start a new one all over again. I didn't fill it up too much this time because it's only a small section at the bottom. So it's right about there. And that's another thing. If you guys decide to use silicone drops or silicone spray in your cups and the cup runs out of paint quickly and you need to mix it again, you don't have to get a new cup for doing that either. If you mix paint again in a cup that already has had paint with silicone mixed in with it in it, that's fine. You don't have to rinse it out and start over. Just know that if you do use silicone, you're gonna have to reapply the drops to it again. And in my workshop, I'll go over how to use silicone drops. See that? I got that darkish gray color. It's gonna be pitch black when it dries. Okay, now it already has kind of a lighter color in here, and I kind of want to keep that composition going. I don't want to all of a sudden bring a dramatic black color for the line. In here with the yellow. I'm going to use my bigger palette knife again. It looks like there's some paint in here. Drag it down. Smaller one, slightly smaller one. Drag it again. One other thing that I'm going to mention, you guys are slightly worried about this stuff getting on your skin as it is on me right now. It's not going to harm your skin. It's just going to turn into a skin that you can just peel off. So if you get some pouring medium or some paint on you, it's not going to hurt you.
Just remind some of those that are joining, because we got people coming in and going out. This is Zoe. She's our newest artisan and our intern here at the gallery this summer. She's doing some live acrylic paint pouring right now for you guys. She's already done one canvas. This is her larger canvas right now that she's been working on.
I'm going to do another puddle, guys. Black. I always start with the darkest color first on my puddles because it'll create contrast. And it'll create lace. Nice lacing like it did over here. It's outlining those cells. Wait. I'm noticing a few bald spots in some areas, but that is okay. I don't mind the background underneath showing through. That's pretty. I'm going to go to the opposite end. But the black is where I started on with the end and kind of fix that area a little bit because it looks a little bit the way it cuts off like meh with it.
And just a reminder, if you guys have any questions for Zoe, then feel free to put them in the comments, and I'm happy to post them, and we'll get those answered for you.
Okay, guys. Ooh. I can't wait to see it. This is I'd like to know what you guys are thinking of what's going on right now so far.
There you go, guys. You heard that. She wants to know,
Yeah.
do you like it? What are you
What
thinking?
are these colors making you think of? Do you see? I've had some people in my family say they see shapes of animals or faces. You guys see any of that stuff in here?
I actually see a moray eel right now.
You see an eel?
I see a moray eel, the head of a moray eel.
Where's the head?
I will point to it. So if you're looking at it from this direction, from the camera's direction, here's the eye, here's the lower jaw, and here's the upper jaw.
Oh,
Moray eel right there.
I like that. Okay.
See it?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Anybody else see anything? Put it in the comments. Let's see them. Let's see them.
Fix that. There's a little foot right here that's sticking out. I need a smaller knife for that because that is a thin area.
So this is definitely messy, but it's nowhere near what people think it is because you're not over painting it, right?
No.
Because I'll be honest with you guys, when we were talking about doing it here in the gallery, I was a little dubious about it.
Yeah, the messiest part about it is all the excess paint that comes off. And that's why I have a big plastic mat out here because
Yeah, and it's working.
yeah, there's a lot of blobs around me. I don't know if you can see this whole spot right over here.
Oh yeah, they can
Big
see
blob
it.
right there.
They can see it.
Now, here's a cool thing. What's really fun about using this type of plastic paint wrap, this plastic paint wrap actually you can get at Walmart. If you go back into the paint section, they come in a big tube in a plastic bag. And it's just called, I think it's just called paint wrap.
Yeah,
or
it's like a drop
professional-
cloth, really.
Yeah. And what's cool about it is that when the paint blobs on it right now, when they dry, you can actually peel them off.
Oh,
They
cool.
become skins. I've seen some really cool things on social media that people have done with paint pouring skins. They'll sometimes take them and put them into resin molds and make jewelry out of them.
Huh.
Yeah, that's really cool. So maybe when this one dries, I don't know, I might be able to peel off. I do it with something.
So we got two comments. One sees a mountain perhaps inspired by the Blue Ridge. Actually, I see that too.
You do?
I totally see that too. You're
Well,
exactly
maybe
right.
Subconsciously, that's
Yeah,
probably what my
Right at the
subconscious was
right
thinking
on
of.
your side, Zoe. It looks like two peaks, kind of like the
Yeah.
Blue Ridge going across there. Oh, it really does. And then Pam says looks like a mountain from her view. She said the exact same thing. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I know. I totally see the mountains right now. That's for sure. Oh wow, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I definitely see mountains. Mountains with a moray eel in the middle of it. I like it.
I like the visual take on that. I like all the different things that you're seeing in it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. Especially from my view over here, because I'm looking at the camera view, which is way above it. So I'm seeing all kinds of stuff. You guys have got the best view watching it live.
To me, right now, this looks like a very abstracted coral reef, or it looks like some kind of spiritual moving coral reef.
I definitely feel the coral reef colors in there. That's kind of why I guess I was leaning towards the moray eel a little bit. Definitely see the mountains too, though.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget, if you guys want to join Zoe in August, she's going to be doing a class just like this right here in the gallery.
Oh yes.
go to our website and register. It's already registering.
Yeah, like I said, I will go over the techniques again with the swipe pour. I will actually go over on a separate canvas how to do a puddle pour. I'll also go over how you use silicone. And I am thinking of introducing possibly a third technique called the ninja swipe. One of my paintings in here actually was done using the ninja swipe.
So another comment says, do lots of people ask if Frankenholler is a favorite? I'm not sure what that means.
Frankenthaler?
Frankenthaler.
Is that the artist Frankenthaler? Is that who you're asking
I'm pretty sure
about?
that's what he's talking about, yes.
Actually, Frankenthaler was one of the artists that my professor had me study when doing my thesis and independent study. I looked at the way she arranged her colors. I looked at the way she spread the paint onto her canvases. Of course, she has a completely different style of paint pouring. Apparently what Frankenthaler did was she worked with oils, and what she would do is she would paint really, really thin patches of oil paint onto her canvases and just build that up with layers to create these really interesting, whimsical, and instinctual abstract pieces of art.
Cool. Very cool. Great question. So are you about done with it, Zoe?
I think I'm ready to leave it alone because I kind of like what it's doing right now, and I feel like if I keep going in with more and messing with it, it's going to ruin it.
All right, that's awesome. That's awesome.
The thing. Learning when to stop is very important because I have overworked certain parts of a painting before. Now, here's an interesting thing that some of you might be thinking. What happens if you pour, and you don't like how it looks, and you have a really big, expensive canvas that you spent a lot of money on, and you feel like, oh no, I just did a really bad pour and it's ruined? Or say when it dries, if you don't like what the colors look like with them actually dry, and you're thinking, oh no, I hate how it looks, I can't do it again. That's okay. Because what I've done is if there is a paint pour that I've done on top already that I don't like, and I want to start over again or change some of it, I will let it fully dry. And then once it's fully dry, I will go back in with another pour on top.
Excellent.
And if you guys have some questions on how that works, I think what I'll do is in the workshop, I will bring in an example of a painting that I actually messed up and then fixed. And actually, I like it a lot better now than when it did before. It looks dramatically different, but I use what I now call a double layering process where you do one pour, let it dry, and then come up with another pour on top.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Zoe, thanks so much. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Everybody watching, thanks for your questions. Thanks for the shapes and all that kind of stuff. We are definitely going to be posting on our Instagram and Facebook pages. I think we're going to do that on Thursday or Friday, what these look like once they're done. So we'll definitely be posting. I personally can't wait to see what either one of these, especially this one, looks like. Those of you who follow my photography and have taken my photography classes, you might want to notice where she poured that. Right along the rule of thirds line that I like to talk to you guys about all the time. So definitely, I'm very curious to see what this one does. So Zoe, thanks again. Fantastic job. If you guys want to check out her work, visit our website. It's up at the top of the page, turnmeyergalleries.com. She's got 5 different items on there that's available right now. This one may become available. You never, ever know. We'll see what's in the stars. You can come in and talk to Zoe. You want to talk to her about acrylic paint pouring? She's in here normally on Fridays and Saturdays here at the gallery. She's our intern. You can definitely come in and talk to her about it and look at her work. She's happy to talk about it. And don't forget, in August, the date escapes me right now. I want to say it was the 22nd, but I can't remember correctly.
I think it's actually August 8th.
It might be August 8th, but it's definitely on our website. Go to our website if you want to come in and join Zoe here in the gallery and do some paint pouring yourself. Definitely different, unique techniques and everything that's very, very cool. And you'll have a great time. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you, and thank you guys for watching.